countries which are somehow not yet creating a lot of added value in their economy. So we are a bit low-cost country scene. And to change that is something which we already talk since years in different projects with different partners. But we all know this is somehow related with knowledge, this is related with money, this is related with infrastructure, but this is also related with legal security in order to generate research, development, and innovation. I will use a bit the Swiss example to show you how this is done in Switzerland since already long time ago. The whole history of funding innovation by the government started in Switzerland even at the time of the Second World War, where innovation was founded in order to keep the people employed during the war and then also, of course, after the war. And then in the year of around 1995, 1996, we had between the wartime and this time a lot of support in the fundamental research of Switzerland. And then somehow in the 95, 96, the economy recognized that there another type of research and development is needed, which is more applied to the needs of the smaller and middle-sized enterprises, while the fundamental is used more by big companies, as you may know, Nestle, Novartis, and others, which are dealing with that. So parallel in 1996, there was also the launch of a new type of universities in Switzerland. We had first classical universities, as we all know from our countries. And then under the push also from the economy, they opened the so-called universities of applied sciences. Applied sciences is the word, so it's science, it's research, it's innovation, but really based on the needs of the economy and the society. And this has developed quite well. Today, half of the students going for tertiary are in classical universities, the other half in universities of applied science. And then 2018, also the whole funding mechanism was again reworked and is now called InnoSwiss. The wood sector, the wooden window sector had in Switzerland about 12, 15 years ago. I just want to go back to one very important statement, and this is the difference between fundamental research and applied research. Switzerland invests even much more money in fundamental research than in applied research, because it's the basis of our economy, which is research-based and not production-based. But the difference is when you have the fundamental research, often the benefit of a research investment comes in 10 years, 15 years, depending on the topic, because it takes sometimes a lot of time. Taking let's say the medical sector, we know that when a company like Novartis is investing in new meds, out of 10, maybe only 1, maximum 2 come to the market and the data done. It takes sometimes a year or even a decade. This is different with InnoSwiss. Here is the idea that this comes very quickly, means within months or a very few years into practice and gets a feedback to the ones who invest to the company. So it's very short terms. I will maybe show you an example where the initial position was about 12, 15 years ago. You remember in the past, every house had wooden windows, and then came the time where plastic windows came up and they took over more and more market shares from the window producers. So you see, this was in 20 years a reduction. They had 80%, and then it was only 20%. So there was a situation where the need was to develop a new functional window out of wood, which is competitive to the one of plastic. And then the idea came, and you will see that then on the next slide, from 2 smaller window producers, which came to the university and said how we can do, what we can do in order to get back our market shares. So the challenge was, in fact, that the two small producers wanted to improve the situation because it was important for their survival. On the other hand, they saw that they are too small in order to manage this innovation and this research. So what they needed was a research institution who has the knowledge to help them to develop a better or a new type of window. And on the other hand, they also saw that they need additional partners to be involved in such a development. And they said they want to create a cluster, a temporary cluster, in order to bring this new window on the market. So the different partners were used because one partner has specific knowledge in one thing, the other in another thing. This one has our own network, the other one another network. Everybody can contribute financially to it, and as a whole cluster, then you have much more potential to be successful with your process. This is also one of the first steps when you are not let's say a bigger company and do it on your own. You have to find these partners, and you saw on the website there is a potential also to find partners through Innovate. And of course also the financing is always a question, and Innovate was certainly one possibility to get contribution to the research project. Here on this slide, you see how this then turned out. So these two companies, which were not big ones, 32 and one close to 60 employees, this is so a middle-sized company in Switzerland. They found partners, and really big ones. So there was the biggest, or one of the biggest, I think it's the biggest producer of adhesives in Switzerland, with more than 10,000 employees who joined. There was big companies, they produce fittings for to open, close the doors, big ones really also. And also glass producers were interested to join. So we had at the end 4 different types of companies, 3 more bigger ones and the 2, let's say, smaller ones. Then the university, which came in with the knowledge, and Swiss finally was seen as a potential co-financing partner of the project. So how this works in practice, very simple. I apologize for the people who have not so technical love as I have it. I'm coming from the technical field, that's why it's also a technical example, but this may happen in all fields, social science, whatever it is. So this is open for all different spheres of our economy and society. So first of all, they had to define what is the requirement on a new window in order to be competitive. That could be something, this has to be with safety, with aesthetic, with pricing, with the construction and so on. Then together, these partners developed a research plan and the budget. And then the budget showed that there is a need for additional 300,000 euros to the amount which have already been invested by the different partners here in the cluster. And this was the moment where they approached InnoSwiss. So you had to follow the steps we had, and InnoSwiss was assessing it according to what you saw. And finally, they approved that this is good to be supported. And then the whole process starts. This is more the technical process to develop the things, to make the testing, and so on. And finally, they produced a new type of window, which was completely, pretty much different than the former ones. And when you see the number 8, this is also quite an important point they had to handle. When you invest in innovation and research and you get a product or a new service or a new in order to be safe, you can apply for the patent. And this is what they did as well. So they had to agree which company has which rights on the whole thing, not only the 2 which initiated the process had the rights, but of course the glass producer, the fitting producer, and the adhesive producer wanted also to have, because there is a potential to grow. So they agreed on a patent. I don't know how the mechanism has happened, but this is also why I say at the beginning the legal security in the country is very, very important, so that I'm sure that what I invest also is not, let's say, just stolen by the company. Just this is then the technical result which they had. This was not more a window where the glass is fixed in a frame of wood, but in fact the wood was glued on the glass because the glass itself is stable enough to be the window. And this has opened a lot of new possibilities, faster production, better architectural designs, and so on. And this has then finally led to the who are following, let's say, impact. So through the patent they had, and when it gets public somehow that this new window is developed, other companies which had the same problem were interested to produce also such a type. So I think they sold part of the patent and so on in order to get also money back from the investment. So technology was then introduced in Swiss and international window companies, what has created additional also research activities in other countries, people saw, but this was not the end of the story. So this has really created new research activities. And then also beside the big adhesive producer in Switzerland, others joined in because this was also a business opportunity from them. At the moment when this presentation has been made, and this is already 7-8 years ago, I made that, there have been about 70 million investments in new production facilities in Switzerland, because to produce this window has required other technical equipment and processes to produce it. And this was then really successfully introduced into the Swiss market. And then through the big companies, which all of them also were somehow active in China at this time, 3 years later, the whole thing were also introduced in China. So there was production in China for the Chinese market and other markets. And it's for sure that the 3 bigger companies, which are internationally active, gets the money several times back they invested in this research project. So this is a very practical example. As I say, this can happen in all different spheres. And you saw what the criteria are to get support from InnoSwiss. And yeah, with this I would close my short presentation.